Good afternoon, hello, and welcome to this latest episode of Rob Commits Thrivery, my YouTube channel, and where I document my journey to steal for myself and those around me a life so joyous, challenging, playful, and richly connected that frankly it ought to be illegal. And we've got a couple of firsts for this episode. Not only am I going to be doing the first monthly recap episode, basically talking about any progress that I've made, but I also have a guest on with me. I'd very much like to introduce to you my friend Trevor Low. Trevor, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me, Rob.
I met Trevor through the group that I joined up recently, and the one that... How long have you been part of Men of Action for, Trev?
A little over a year now.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Whereas
24, yeah.
Whereas for me, I joined, I think as I mentioned in some of the prior videos, I wound up joining the full program of MOA yesterday, as a matter of fact.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. After joining up through the off-market dating, I thought it would be a fun thing, as I started doing these not so long ago, to maybe do a quick bit of a recap and talk about, and glad to have Trevor along as well, so he can share a bit of his perspective on this wonderful act of thrivery that in some way that we're basically both attempting in our lives. So, Trev, as you are the guest, let's start you off, mate. How has the month of October been for you in terms of stepping outside your comfort zone, whether you're trying new things or getting the reps in on things that you've already been, initiatives that you've already been making progress on?
Yep, so off the top of my head, two things. I recorded another episode on my newly launched podcast with another MOA member, a guy based in New Jersey, single dad with a 15-year-old daughter, about how he co-parents his daughter and then juggle between his work and wanting to do his podcast and run his own men's coaching business on the side. And second of all, Rob and I went on a cruise. I invited Rob as my plus one, and we went there to meet, attractive women and business savvy people to learn, how they operate their business, because this business is a fashion company where they run fashion events, but they also own a boat, so they organized a cruise. It was organized by a company called
Australia's Fashion Grandeur, wasn't it? Yeah.
Correct, or AFG for short. So they decided to throw a cruise for people that they know and invite a couple of people, special guests. So Rob and I were fortunate enough to attend, and along with a third MOA member, Nick Xenofondos. And yeah, it was a good cruise. I met new people and saw a few familiar faces, some of the female model friends that I've made in my journey here. And one of the highlights there, Nick and I managed to organize 16 girls at the front of the boat just to capture some great content of them having fun. And in hindsight, we thought to ourselves, we should have gotten that pre-selection photos with 16 girls. But we were busy organizing them, and then they were going crazy because we were saying, throw your hands up in the air, wave them around like you just don't care, just making sure we keep the energy up, boosting the positive vibes of the cruise. So that was highlight, and something that was a little bit out of our comfort zone, because we never organized like a bunch of girls, especially attractive women, to do something.
One of the things that the Men of Action group encourages is getting photos with attractive women, and again, not that you are dating them or anything like that. I mean, Trevor here is married.
Married man, yeah.
So,
one child.
But still, if you get... The general idea is, if you can show that you have the approval and the comfort of a bunch of awesome folks, especially women, well, let's face it, pre-selection is about being shown that women are comfortable around you, then when you've got that on your social media profile, pardon us, we're getting the sexy people following. Look at this.
Jump in. Go on.
All right, what the heck? A little bit early for Christmas, but what the heck? Is this thing going to argue with me? Of course it is.
Yes.
No, we don't want to go that way. We want to be looking at the pretty people. And of course, what should happen right as I get the most awesome video bomb on one of my walking vlogs to date? Yep, That's right, the recording cuts out on me. Now, I could blame my kit for this, and it is kind of tempting to, as you've probably seen in the video so far. Well, actually, you wouldn't have, because there was a fair bit of editing on it, and I think I got all the little instances where all of a sudden the gyro stabilising on this Osmo stand that I've got completely cut out, and the camera went sideways and vertical. Well, it was already, sideways and vertical on me. But who knows, maybe it was simply while I was doing those adjustments of the setup right then that I nudged the recording button and it cut out, which was a shame, because it was a fun little chat with those folks who were there in their Halloween Santa costumes. So if you do happen to be watching along and you're wondering why you only were in it for about 5 seconds, it wasn't because I edited you out. I certainly didn't want to. It's just because all of that footage went bye-bye. It isn't even on my phone anywhere, so my sincerest apologies, folks. I hope to bump into you again sometime soon, and we'll have to have the chat that we didn't, well, that we kind of got a chance to, but maybe even a bit more of a chat than we did out at Darling Harbour that day. Anyway, back to Darling Harbour. Because if the darn thing wasn't recording, that's a shame, because that was a fun thing to do. Well, of course we're forgetting Wednesday night, which was when I actually first met you.
Yep.
And that was, of course, Wednesday, October the what? I can't remember.
22nd. Let me just have a quick look
Sounds
on the
about
calendar.
right. So I met Trevor through the free Men of Action group, which technically I did still pay through the off-market dating, and me trying to get some of the other MOA lads together in Sydney on a regular basis, which is something I'll talk about in a minute. And the first thing he actually asked me out to was, so yeah, what was the thing on Wednesday, Trev?
On the 22nd of October, we both attended the Sydney Chic magazine's inaugural fashion gala. So their first runway, where they had like 70 models, I believe, and like 20 sponsors.
This was basically the first thing that they had done, that's right?
Yes, there was a magazine company and like maybe photography and basic smaller events, like but in collaboration with other people. But this is the very first event they've ever had on their own, but with sponsors, obviously, and a couple of designers that brought in
examples.
Correct. Yes. And then so sponsors, designers, and models for a night of fashion and glamour.
Yes, no, it was a full runway event. So each designer had their own particular stretch, and all the models got changed between each one, and then came out in each designer's set of clothing. So it was a fantastic thing, and it's the first time I've ever been to something like that. And basically all I had to do was monitor Trevor's camera while he was doing... What were you doing, Trev?
I was roaming around capturing content. So
yes.
Rob was stationary with one camera while I was just bouncing around at the front of the runway, at the side of the runway, taking footage of the DJ.
Yeah.
So all sorts, just bouncing around, taking content at different angles of the event.
Indeed. But the dude is modest, because not only was he doing that, but he was also doing the bloody red carpet chats. For God's sakes, Trev, how could he forget that bit?
Yeah. Talked to a couple of the designers and 2 of the showgirls.
Now, is that something, from the sounds of it, that is something that you've done on a semi-regular basis for the last little while, is that right? In the last year, in most of the events I attended to network, I did offer, free interview service, whether it's red carpet or not, just to welcome guests, have a chat with the model, just to get their initial thoughts before the models go on the runway, find out about the designers, basically offer value to the event, boost the positive atmosphere of the event, and then in return, they give me a free ticket in. So exchanging value for value. Indeed.
And then meeting new people, obviously.
Yeah. And I got to come in basically because I think that exchange of value meant that they said that you could bring another person along, and for me it was like, okay, well, I better make sure I'm paying my way, so it allowed me, I ran the camera and took that pressure off Trev so that he could concentrate on getting the red carpet interviews, and also I also ran the main, as you were saying, I ran the main camera during the event itself while he was running around with his own gyroscope mount with his phone attached to it, getting more footage. So not as advanced a model of mine, and I would call that a brag, except for the amount of grief that we've been having with it since I started recording. Like at the moment, it's trying to make up its mind whether or not it's going to do face tracking. So yeah, trials and tribulations of stepping out of your comfort zone and doing new things. So for me, okay, no, we don't need to be looking at me all the time, thank you very much. For me, I mean, there has been all of that, plus trying to get the local Men of Action, members of the free group, and any paid members as well, who usually I think have access to both forums, I believe. I mean, I know you, of course, that's how I reached out to you.
Yep.
Together on a regular basis, because one of the main things that Men of Action teaches you, and the first step in any work they get you to do, is to basically fix up your social media. Because odds on, if you're a casual user or a semi-professional user, your Instagram at the very least probably needs a lot of work, and they've got a lot of tools and techniques, but ultimately a lot of the stuff you simply cannot do unless you have another human being to help you out and take photos. Thankfully, I've got some technical assistance here with this wonderful gyroscopic mount, which appears to be behaving for now. But if I want to get shots of myself in a scene, I'm either going to have to do a lot of fiddling to get it set up, get the shot set up, hope that I am lined up correctly in said shot. And there are also some outlines of how to get good, compelling shots for an Instagram profile that is going to get the attention, a feminine viewership, and demonstrate that you are competent, that you are relevant, the access to scarce things that you might well have, and at the very least paint a picture of a compelling and rich in the sense of filled with variety and interesting things, even more so than perhaps your access to money. So yeah, really it's something that if you want to do it well and you want to do it quick, you are going to need the help of other human beings. And I figured, all right, if that's the case, let's try and get as many of us together as possible so that we can start helping each other out, which has been going pretty well so far. I mean, thankfully, here I am with Trev. It has been also a little bit of a struggle. I'm trying to do it fortnightly, but people do tend to be a little bit on the busy side. I've found, especially among the free community, it can be a little bit tricky for them to make the time and come along. So that's been a little bit of a step outside of my comfort zone of actually putting myself out there, putting notices up on the group and saying, hey guys, I want to get together with you, let's help each other out, and I want to make it a regular thing just so that people can feel like they can depend on it being there and are more likely to trust that it will be a thing. Slow going so far, but still. Also, doing these. This is the third one I've recorded with this kit so far. And of course, exactly. And, you know, there have been some technical quibbles learning how to use the kit. And it's like, here you and I are, walking through a public space, people all around us. We're doing something that is very unusual, like talking animatedly into a damn phone with me holding this gyroscope mount. So, talk about stepping outside your comfort zone.
Exactly.
Yeah. Those were like the big things for the both of us, from the sounds of it. Correct. So, yeah,
speaking, improving public speaking, communication skills, which in turn will flow through your other aspects of your life, whether it's leadership, relationships, goal setting, and basically interpersonal skills.
Yeah.
Use your voice to build your personal brand. Use your voice to get comfortable speaking in public and speaking with people, building connections. So that's all we're improving on.
Indeed. And at least ideally, if there's anything that makes you look relevant, it's your ability to use modern technology, including these running gyroscope mounts. So, now that we've kind of had this rather challenging October, what's something that you're looking forward to in, say, between now and hopefully the next time we or I do this, maybe at the end of November?
What am I looking forward to?
Yeah.
Between now and end of November?
In the coming month, yeah.
The coming month. What am I looking forward to?
Got it
do more podcasts, because I have my own podcast channel where I try to gather stories of people that went through setbacks and how they bounce back, coming back stronger. So I've got to find more podcast guests, be out there just DMing people, finding the right and suitable guests, just so that I gather the stories and in turn use these stories to inspire people who need to hear it.
Okay, so while we've got people's attention, pitch us on this show. What's it called? What's it about?
Yep, so I called it the Turning Point Tales podcast on YouTube, TikTok and Instagram, where I reached out to people who have come across serious struggles. It could be, for instance, losing a loved one.
We'll go this way.
All right. Could be someone losing, the guest profile could be someone losing a loved one and have to go through the struggles of, dealing with loss. Could be going through failure of a business, where the business had to shut down, where basically someone has lost a huge, went through huge loss, and how they had to dig deep and then come back and not just, not bounce back and stay in a depressed state. So, for instance, I met someone who went through drug and alcohol abuse, and then how he has seen people around him die or go through severe depression, and how someone actually told him, you need to get help, otherwise you're not going down the right path. So that's what he did, overcome the struggles of alcohol and drug abuse, and then came back. Now he's a contributing member of society, works in social care, is a social worker, helping at troubled youth or at risk youth from not going down the same path that he did. So that was one of my guests. So Turning Point Tales podcast, where we gather stories of people that went through serious setbacks and how they bounced back. Because everyone loves a success story, but I want to dig in deep into the nitty-gritty of how they were struggling when they were at the low point in their life, and how they how they crawl and climb out of the hole that they're in.
Yeah.
So that's a brief overview.
I think for a little while I was actually doing something of a similar topic when I was making the show Equal First. I was originally talking with people about when they found themselves in the pits in their lives and how they got themselves out. So I can certainly empathise with that story, and in some ways I feel like me approaching my 50s, it's easy to get into a bit of a headspace where it's like, well, aren't my best years behind me? Is there nothing left? Not so much nothing left for me to do, but are there any opportunities for me to get out of just survival mode or coasting mode, which is, where you're doing okay, you're not in a bad way, but you're still not really doing anything. You're not living as thoroughly as you could be, and I feel like I've been guilty of that for, I don't know, maybe the past few decades. So I certainly empathise with that topic, and so I assume if people do a search for Turning Point Tales on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever good podcasts are found, that's where they'll find your show?
Yeah, I've got to be more active on Spotify, yeah. I've only launched one episode on Spotify, but I have 4 full recorded episodes posted on YouTube. And then a couple of YouTube shorts, TikTok shorts, and Instagram.
It is interesting how YouTube has actually kind of become the new home for podcasting nowadays, and it seems like you can't really do an audio, well, you probably can do an audio-only podcast, but there is so much. I'm suddenly thinking of a show that was done. There's a lady by the name of Katie Sackhoff, an actor in the US, who's done a bunch of stuff, but is best known for Battlestar Galactica, which came out in the early 2000s, of course. For all you sci-fi fans out there, yes, I know it was a remake of the original 1978 show. Don't come at me. But yeah, she's got her own show where she talks to people in Hollywood and in the industry, fellow actors, all that kind of thing. And she went audio only for a little bit, and then I think there was just so much demand for her to do video interviews where she's actually, got the people she's speaking with either on camera or is in the same place as them, recording in studio, that she basically started doing it again. Is that what you're doing with your show? Of course you're doing it on YouTube. You're making sure you're getting video as well?
Yes, it's video, yeah. virtually recorded podcast. Unless, they live in Sydney, then I can do a face-to-face.
Yeah.
So right now, it'll mostly be virtual podcast where we just link up online, record it, and then I'll edit and post it on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Spotify.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, looking forward to more episodes of that. And funny you should mention podcasts, because I'm working on my fourth personal one at the moment. After the pay-to-play podcast between 2012 and 2016, the short-lived Only in Death podcast, which was a role-playing game actual play based in the Warhammer 40,000 universe, sort of around about 2017. And then the last few episodes of Equal First I did at the end of last year, beginning of this year. I'm now working on, and I think it's fair because I've already started getting guests on it, I can be a little bit less precious with the idea. I've already got a coming soon website page up for it on my personal website called Nights Out in Good Company, where the thing I want to do at the moment is make sure I'm getting out of the house as much as possible and going to places where people get together and have a good time and hanging out and seeing who I meet. And the podcast is more, at the moment anyway, talking with the people who enable all this, who organise the venues, who organise the events, and sometimes, the folks who put in the extra spice to make the events really sing, like DJs or even caterers, who knows. So that is my project at the moment. I've already, on that getting out of the comfort zone factor, I've already started reaching out to a few guests. Got my Calendly calendar app back together again so that they can pick times when they would want to record an episode, and doing some research and trying to figure out the questions that I want to ask them.
Before the show,
yeah.
Recording, yeah.
Pretty much.
I've got to work on that too, yeah. Prepare, be very well prepared before I go on a show, so get as much background information as I can of the guests before the show, and even ask them what would you like to share with the world, just so I know I could prepare the right questions, the deep thought questions ahead of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Ask them what, and of course things like, if you're coming on my show, is there anything that you would like to promote? Any special offers that you might have going, or whether you just want people to come check out your web page or your Instagram, all that kind of stuff. It can be a fun thing, but I've also found sometimes it's nice, you can prepare, but sometimes it's nice to keep your curiosity as well. Like, let the guest tell their own story from their perspective. Sometimes at least talking about myself, and in a way kind of like giving Trevor advice even though it wasn't asked for. Don't go too far down the rabbit hole, because as much as some say there is a truism in reporting, never ask an interview subject a question that you don't know the answer to ahead of time. But if that's the case, where is the space for your curiosity and their ability to bring something new? If you can't be surprised, then your audience can't be either. And life is about a learning experience, so why not learn from your guests as well while you're talking with them?
Exactly. Yeah, it's good to get people's perspective and viewpoints. That way, you get a better understanding or wider bird's eye view of how things work.
Well, after having watched this episode of Rob Commits Thrivery, Trevor, where can people go to find out more about you?
About me personally?
And about your initiatives that you've got going on. So whether it's, your website, your Instagram profile, where can people go to get more of that Trevor Low fix that they're after?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram, IG handle Trevor_Low.
And that's just L-O-W?
Correct, L-O-W, that's my last name, Trevor_Low, where I post photos, videos, and what's been happening in my life, the events that I'm fortunate enough to attend, and also maybe share clips of my podcast, even though my podcast is on a separate IG page, but I may have crossovers between my IG page, personal IG page, and my IG podcast page.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't getting tongue-tied, if you don't cross-promote, how are people going to know everything that you're up to and decide what they want to follow? Well, hopefully, technical issues aside and maybe a bit of editing work, we've got a pretty good bloody episode out of this, I reckon, Trev.
Yep.
All right, well, let's I think now is about the good time to wrap things up. So thank you, folks, very much for watching. Again, make sure you follow Trevor at all of the places he just mentioned. And please make sure that you like this video, subscribe to the Rob Commits Thrivery channel. If you've got any perspectives yourselves, please share them in the comments section down below. And God, here is me blanking on the witty and creative and reassuring exit phrase that I thought of the last time I was doing this. So I guess have a good time in the meantime, and this is Rob Farquhar signing off.